Welcome to the Lift Your Story podcast with guest Em Stroud on a mission to make the world laugh, think, and play more. Hi, everyone. I am LaurieAnn. I am that gal from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we welcome Em Stroud, and she is on a mission to make the world laugh, think, and play more. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you started out in school, but you went to a little bit different direction.
Fair point, yes.
So what made you make that curve?
I think I was very lucky because my dad was an entrepreneur. So I grew up seeing that you can do things differently. So whereas most of my friends' parents were sort of going off and doing a traditional job, I could see, because my dad showed me, it was like actually anything is possible. So if you can think it, then you can probably do it. And although he sadly died when I was 10, I think he had left this sort of everything is possible in my brain. So therefore, I just was like, well, I'm interested in business, but I also love the world of theatre. And sort of fast forward a few years, and I'm banging between the two. So I get to play in the world of business and I get to carry on playing in the performing world as well. So I feel very grateful for that.
Yeah, you're pretty fortunate that you, at 10 years old, you had that and you kept it. You didn't get disillusioned as you grew older, and went the traditional route. Oh, I don't know if I can do that, that type of stuff. So you're pretty fortunate there.
I definitely think so. And I think, I was lucky as well because, I was lucky enough to get a good education, not necessarily saying my school was great, but I got a good education, which then definitely enabled me that to do. And then in the UK you get to choose 6 universities, and on my 6th university I chose theatre and performance studies, and it's almost like I kind of snuck it in there, and then that's the degree that I ended up going and taking. And it took me a while to really own where it is that I wanted to land in the world, as I think it does for all of us. But that taking that turn as opposed to going and doing business, and then I had some other times where again, I was offered a big sales job and I went to drama school. So I've had these head versus heart moments quite a few times in my life, which has now, led me to here as a podcaster, a writer, performer, business coach. So, I'm very grateful for those little bits of courage where I've gone, scary, but actually it's all worked out well.
Now, when you were young and growing up, were you a performer, a singer, one of those type kids?
Actually, up until the age of 15, my whole identity had been sport. So I was Miss Sport. So, county standard at sort of about 3 or 4 different sports. I nearly got my England cap for a game called lacrosse, which I know you play in Canada. Don't know how big it is in the States, but yes, in Canada, it's huge, right? I was pretty decent. I was just about to get my under 15 England cap. And then I damaged my back, and I was suddenly told, you can't do sport for 3 months, which at the age of 15, you might as well have cut off both my legs. And at that moment, about, a couple of weeks afterwards, a friend of mine, it's a typical story, a friend then went, Em, why don't you come and audition for the school play? And I was like, there's a school play? Like, I didn't even know there was a school play. I was so sport. And I was like, okay. So I went along and auditioned, and I got the lead comedy role, and she didn't get a part. That was a whole other issue, but we'll move on from that. And I remember standing, and having a few hundred people watching me, and I had the only comic role in the play. And I remember getting, this sort of standing ovation. And suddenly I was like, this is quite nice. This is better than getting really cold playing lacrosse with like 5 people watching me. Quite like this. And then from that moment on, honestly, I think the performing bug and that, that ability to play on stage and that ability to entertain people and make people laugh, that then just opened up that door. So not always. I wasn't like a sort of precocious 7-year-old. I'm going to be on stage. No, none of that.
Speaking of lacrosse, Roy,
one of my grandsons plays lacrosse.
Amazing.
It's really getting big.
Okay.
Like when my kids were growing up, soccer was really taking off here.
Right.
Now with the grandkids, lacrosse is taking off here now.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Well, both are very good sports. Obviously, you know, being a Brit, I call it football. Both are great. So, you know, your kids and your grandkids are making a lot of sense, you know?
Oh, yeah. But to go back, did your friend that didn't get in the play and you did that affect your friendship?
You know what, for about in that very intense we're 15 way, I think for about a week we didn't speak to each other, but she is still in my life now, and that's a good 20 years on, so I reckon she's let me off the hook a bit now, so it's all right.
Yeah, I kind of figured at that age there might have been a little rift there for at least a period of time anyway.
Yeah.
But
particularly when somebody, you know, convinces you to go and then they don't get in. I've been there.
That's a pretty big slap in the face. So you've got into theater all. We're talking about you're picking up where you left off. You got into theater all. You liked the accolades. So what happened then after that? So
then I really sort of started to think, where do I want to go and play? And at that point in my life, obviously I had the loss of my dad, and my home life after my dad died wasn't great. And as a result of that, I think performing at that point was the most amazing escape route option, you know, because suddenly I get to go and play and be all these other people, so that people didn't see Em Stroud, they saw whoever I was playing. So I think that was honestly underneath, as I look back at my younger self, that was the real reason that really drove me to go and study theatre and performance studies. And I did that for 3 years and I loved it. And I made some amazing friends. And then when I came out of that, I then was like, right, okay, well, what do I do? Do I stay in the world of theatre, or do I go into the world of business? Because I'd already started playing in the world of business and my dad had already shown me. And then I thought, well, I could do both. Why not? In that beautiful way that you have when you're in your very young 20s, early 20s. And so I've managed to get myself a sales job. And so I was living down in the southwest part of the UK at the time, and I was selling crisps. So I got really fat because I was eating them as well as selling them, which I always think is the way forward, right? And as I was doing that, I also set up my first professional theatre company, and then I got my first professional acting gig. And with that first acting gig, I was surrounded by all these professional actors, and they were doing what we actors do. So they were doing the voice warm up, and it was like, ma, 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 ma. And I was walking around going, what are you doing? You know, I've got talent, but I had none of the craft. So within about 3-4 days of that run, and I don't know, there was a 500-600 seat theatre, I'd completely lost my voice. And obviously all the rest of the actors were fine because they understood the craft of acting and how you look after your voice, etc. And it was at that moment I went, wow, I think I want to go and explore more about the craft of acting. And also for me, it was like, the better I get at pretending, the better my life will be. So still in my early 20s, still not really sure who I was, hadn't come out at that point. There was lots of different things going on for me. And meanwhile, in my business life, that was going really well too. So I was suddenly really good at selling crisps, suddenly had the most successful region in the UK, and they offered me quite a big job, and then I got headhunted. So again, to go back to that head heart moment, I was like, do I go to drama school and become an actor? Because that is a good guaranteed source of income, very sensible. All parents would be like, whoop, whoop, go and become an actor. Or do I become a UK sales director of a very big and well-known firm? I took a moment and I went the drama school route. And I ended up spending not 1 year, which was my original plan, but spending 3 years exploring the wonderment and the craft that is acting. But actually that was kind of one side of it. But the main thing that drama school gave me was I went there wanting to learn how to pretend, but actually acting is the portrayal of truth. And actually, in order to play anybody really effectively, in order to portray another person, you actually have to really know who you are. So drama school ended up being, which I hadn't planned, 3 years of the most intensive therapy that you can imagine. And that was the starting point of me shifting and changing and growing.
Well, you mentioned therapy. So, I'm not being an actor, but they have to go to auditions. They get a lot of no's, and is that hard to get past, or the rejection?
I think it definitely, you have to find a way of handling that rejection so that you don't take it personally, even though it is quite often very personal. I remember walking into one audition, I hadn't said a word, and they just went, "You're too short." I was like, I can't do anything about how tall I am. I am very short, by the way, 5'2.5". And I think when you've trained at a really good drama school, which I did, I think one of the biggest gifts that actors have, and I think when actors, those people that don't stay actors for their whole careers and their whole adult life, you can't help but have developed a very high level of resilience and a real ability of being able to go, now, is this actually me? Is there something I could have done better? Or was I just not the right fit? And I think naturally, once you've been through drama school, and you spend like weeks and weeks going to pretend auditions where you walk in and people just don't look at you, so that you're like, okay, so then when you're out in the real wide world, it's like, well, all I can ever be is the best of me. And I'm either the right fit or I'm not. And that's one of those things that I think from the acting world, I think the rest of the world could really do with learning a little bit about,
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Well,
And is that, I was just gonna say, and you were saying that you do coaching. Is that part of your coaching process? Is that, because I mean, I think that's really an important message.
I think sometimes, I mean, most of the people, I don't do that much coaching anymore. So the people I coach are generally sort of CEOs and entrepreneurs and people that have hit a really good level of success within themselves. But actually, quite often when people have hit a high level of success, then they're a bit like, and now what? Because quite often people set themselves these goals of like, right, I'll have a successful podcast, I'll make £1 million a year, I'll have this house, I'll have the car. And then they hit all of that and they go, oh, because actually what they've been scared to do is actually do the work and look at who they are. And actually, once you've got all of that, shiny stuff that supposedly says you're successful, if you haven't actually looked at who you are, suddenly you can find yourself going, I've got all this stuff, and now what? And that's very much kind of where my coaching kind of comes from. It's like, you have to be courageous to look at who you are, exactly what you're doing with this, eliciting our own stories, sharing stories, because there's so much wisdom in all of our stories. And then also thinking, but what do I want my next chapter of my story to be? And in order to do that, quite often you need somebody else to ask you the questions, right?
Yeah. It's always harder to look into yourself. And really dig deep and answer those questions.
Yeah, completely. And I think there's a reticence, and I think us Brits could definitely learn from both you Canadians and Americans, that I think we have more of a reticence still about showing how we're feeling. And, and I think we still, over in the UK and quite a lot of Europe, I think we have a bit more of a culture of, we'll only get help when something's broken, which is actually not a particularly healthy way of doing it. It's actually far better to get support, ask, have other people helping you when you're feeling quite good, because that's the time when it's really good to kind of look at yourself and look at what have been your challenges and how can you learn from them, Yeah,
it's interesting you mentioned that, people that they get there and they go, this is it. I mean, they have such high expectations because they've got from this level to this level to this level to this level. And all of a sudden they're there and they're going like, really? This is it?
Yeah.
Well, we even had, remember, Roy, a couple of guests who said, I achieved everything that I wanted. I got there, I had the house, the car, the kids, the husband, everything. And then I sat there and I'm going, I'm not happy. What's wrong with me? And yet, and they took a whole different turn in life. But it's exactly what you're saying. They achieve everything that they wanted to and realize that this is really not what I really wanted to begin with.
You mentioned being happy. I think there's so many people that are really not happy, and if they could find someone that could, help them to become happy, or show them, that really they've got a good life. They've got good things going on. They just don't see it,
They need to laugh more, right, Em?
Really do. I mean, there's some terrifying stats about how infrequently us adults laugh versus kids, and it's like, and it's almost like, there's somehow, I think us adults have got it all a little bit wrong, because we're like, must be very serious, must get the outcome, must be a grown up, must do all of this. And it's like, and I get it, sometimes life is tough, and I am in no way disputing that it's not, but you can also find the joy, you can find the wonderments, you can allow yourself to play. Quite often adults, I ask in my own podcast, how do people play? And quite often people go, not enough, I don't really play, haven't got time. And I'm like, wow, it's, because play really connects us to joy. Play allows us to find those moments of wonder, find those moments of beauty. And of course, we all play in different ways, right? And that's fine. But it's about how do we make sure that we allow ourselves to do that? And I think somewhere along the way, and probably only since sort of, the 1900s, we've got so fixated on must be serious, must be adult, must do that, must answer email. One that always stays with me, which links to your question, Roy, it's that I wish I'd allowed myself to be happier.
Yeah.
I don't want to look back on my life and go, I wish I could have been happier. I wish I could have had those moments with my son, but I was so busy looking on Instagram or being worried about X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, have those moments, live them, because that's surely what being human's about, right?
Yeah, I know, with me and my two sons and my wife, when they were growing up, we kidded around, with the kids, and they, of course, really, we kind of ganged up on my wife because it was all guys. But anyway,
Still do. You still do.
But we had fun, but we all knew it was fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything mean, but we had a good time, a lot of good laughs, and we still do. But so we had that, and my kids always told us, they felt loved, safe, and protected when they were growing up. So.
I mean, what more of a gift can you give your kids than that, So,
I felt fortunate with that, but, I agree with you. Laugh, you got to have fun. You have to have fun. You got to laugh.
Play more. And
yeah.
And finding the ways to play. Like I was talking to somebody the other day and I was saying, as you get older, I love dancing. I absolutely love dancing, but then you find it's harder to find places to go dancing without young people laughing at you and pointing at you going, look, what's that old lady doing up on the stage? And I don't feel old. I mean, I really don't. And I still love to dance. But and it really doesn't matter to me, but it's harder to find places to dance now. And of course,
I can see a whole new business starting up very soon of come and dance with LaurieAnn. Here's the place. Come and dance with Free Abandon. We're going to put on some great tunes and no one will care. Only over 30s are allowed. The rest of them, they can go to the nightclubs, go have a few beers, and you'll be like, this is just dancing. I mean, it's a whole new business you've got, who knew? And Roy can come down. He can be the DJ with the most,
Trust me, I cannot dance. I love listen, I love music.
Right.
I have no rhythm. I mean, people say, just go with the beat of music. That means zero to me. My sister tried to teach me to two-step back in the 70s. And she said, just go with the music. I said, that doesn't mean anything to me. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
And this is what's so beautiful about Playwright, because this is the thing, because music obviously makes you deeply happy. So for you, play might just be right. I'm going to spend the next hour just playing my old favorite songs on vinyl or Spotify or whatever. And for you, LaurieAnn, it's like, actually, I'm going to go and I'm going to go and find my tribe of 10 other people that want to dance. And we're going to hire somewhere out. And that's the thing. It's like, find that bit. And by the way, Roy, I am so there with you on the not being able to dance, right? I'm trained in musical theatre. So you're meant to be this triple threat person who can act, sing and dance. Acting, tick. Singing, tick. Used to be a singer in a band. Can do all that. Dancing, no. I remember I was doing one particular show. There was, I don't know, 60 people in the cast. We were all standing there, had this dance routine. And because I'm short, at the start of this thing, we were meant to turn at the same time. My little, I can't remember dance brain went, this is when we turn. I turned, stared at my friend. She was like, I can't help you. I then turned and it was me facing the audience, 59 other professionals not facing the audience. So I have been there and done it. So do not worry, I am there with you. But that being said, I have, in my recent book, Lessons from a Clown, which is co-written by my clown Orange. Orange helped me dance because Orange is like this most childlike part of me. So I lose my adult brain of I can't dance. And Orange is like, I don't care. This is brilliant. And Orange does let me dance. So Roy, you need to find your inner dancing clown, then you'll be fine.
I need to find my Orange.
Yeah, find your Orange. Yeah.
My favorite color. There you go, Roy.
There you go. Done.
That's so funny. That's so funny. So what led you to write your book?
Good question. I think I'd written shows before. And so I'd written theatre shows. I've done one-woman shows, off the West End and toured and things in the UK. And I was also in a transition stage. So I left a business with a business partner and I'd worked with him for about 15 years. And it just really started to become clear to me that it would be good for me to check in where I was at. And when I reconnected with clowning, so I did it while I was at university. And then honestly, I sort of just didn't do it. I did improvising, not clowning. And I just sort of got back into clowning. And this is about 4 or 5 years ago. And I just wanted to kind of share that experience about what the craft of clowning had taught me and how that had kind of pulled together all of the personal development work that I've done, all of the coaching work, all of the play work. And if you'd asked me at the time, was I going to co-write a book with a clown that's my clown, I would have been like, who are you? Are you on drugs? Are you all right? But actually, how it emerged over the couple of years as I was writing it was that I have different hats. So I play different roles, just like we all do. And actually co-writing it with Orange. So Orange has its own font. Orange has their own, sort of quotes and things like that. And it actually just, I don't know, it just enabled me to play. And it enabled me to play with the format of what a book should look like. So you've got kind of stuff in stage, you've got stuff that's written in Orange's font, you've got my stuff. And if you're going to be brave enough to say you're a clown and be out in the world and working with big corporates, then you might as well live it and do it properly. So that was why I wrote it. And I wanted to pull together where I'd got to, 20 odd years worth of work, put it all together. And then you get a book like that. See?
That's great. That's great. How do you like doing corporate work?
How do I like it? For me, it's like everything, isn't it? People are people, right? And we see people, whether we're in the setting of we're in a bar, we're in a corporate world, or we're working with somebody on a one-to-one basis, right? And I don't really view corporate work as any different other than I'm dealing with human beings. Some of the processes might be slightly different in terms of, invoicing and the dull business things. Yeah, they're a bit different. But actually, as soon as you're in a room, I have to just show up and be the best Em that I can be. And so actually, I love it because they're just people. And quite often they're people who are so desperate to be treated as humans and as equals. And to be honest, I don't mind if somebody's job title is I'm receptionist and I'm 18 and I've just started work, or I'm the CEO of one of the big 4 banks in the UK. You're either a good human being who's open and curious, or you're not. And actually what I find is that most people that work within corporates are desperate to become the better version of themselves. And in another life, I could have been working in a corporate, so I don't really view it as corporate or entrepreneurial or performing. I'm like, I'm either working with nice people or they're not.
Right.
Okay. So how can our listeners reach out to you?
They can reach out to me via my website. So emmastroud.london is my website, and it's all been redone. So it's all going to look splendid. So by the time this comes out, it will look resplendent, no doubt. I'm also on Instagram at Emma Stroud LDN. See what I've done there? It's London, but shorter. If you find me on LinkedIn, I am Em Stroud on LinkedIn. I believe that I'm the only person that's a clown on LinkedIn who's called Em Stroud. So you'll definitely find me. And if you want to read my book, it's on Amazon, Lessons from a Clown. Oh, and my podcast is called Clowning Around, the podcast, which is available everywhere, like regardless of where you are. Romania. I'm very big in Romania right now. Who knew? True story. Number 1 in comedy interviews. Who knew? Thank you, Romania.
Wow.
Well,
That's
awesome.
fun. Very interesting information. I love all of this. And I really do agree that we do need to laugh more, dance more, do whatever that's playful. And it's a great message. Thanks, Em.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Lovely chatting to you both.
Oh, thank you for being our guest. We really appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by Maono, featuring their multifunctional USB microphone, very light, portable, affordable, and great for podcasters, and available on Amazon.